Hey guys, what is up? This is Darklaw of Darklaw's Domain here, and I said I was going to do a part 2 of my PS3 collection, which includes only digital games, and here it is right now. As you can see, this is my PS3 screen with my awesome Kingdom Hearts wallpaper. Looks freaking sweet. I got this after I finished the first game. Um, and needless to say, it was a nice little reward for finishing the game. And then right after I got that, I moved on to KH2, and then KH Birth by Sleep, which I'm almost done with Birth by Sleep, but I haven't finished it yet. I'm at, what was it, Terra Story. Anyways, so, yeah, this is my digital collection. As you can see here, I've stored them all in different folders. One for each format. So, without further ado, let's get started. I'll start with the PlayStation 3 and PSN titles, then I'll go to the PS2 Classic titles, and then the PS1 games. Let's get started. Fair warning, I don't have a proper capture card, so you're gonna have to deal with the wobbly camera work here, and just the not so great quality, considering I don't have the capture card. This is also, if I do reviews on this system, I'm gonna end up using this camera for now until I have the money to get a capture card. So just bear with me. Anyways, let's get started. Enough farting around. So, starting with the PS3 stuff. Let's go all the way up here. The first game I have is Cartoon Network Punch Time Explosion XL, or Extra Large, as the XL stands for. This is basically a Super Smash Bros. Clone with Cartoon Network characters, and it isn't bad. It's an alright game. It was actually like 99 cents. I'm not even joking. I actually bought this game for 99 cents, and it isn't a bad game. It's actually kind of it's kind of fun, but obviously it's nowhere near as good as Smash Brothers. So, yeah, but it's an interesting game, for sure. Naruto Ultimate Ninja Storm Revolution. Played this one quite a lot shortly after I graduated high school. And, I played this with my brother a lot. We had a lot of fun playing it, but, of course, he was the better player. He would always kick my ass, because he's not really that big into fighting games, but this was one of the few fighting games he would constantly play, and yeah, he'd always beat me, but I had a lot of fun playing it. I really enjoyed this game. It was a lot of fun. It mostly is a game for multiplayer purposes, so the story isn't really all that strong here. There's not much of a story anyway, except for the Mecha Naruto side story, which is funny as hell, I will admit, but it's ultimately just a short story, nothing crazy. But the game overall, it's a lot of fun, and I really do enjoy it for what it is. Loads of characters, fun gameplay. Just basically, it's like a multiplayer, souped-up version of Ultimate Ninja Storm 3. I have moved on to Revolution. I have moved on to Ninja Storm 4 since then. But Revolution I still go back to once in a while. It's a great game. Lego Batman 3. I haven't played too much of this. Not the biggest Lego fan. I really want to put more time into this, though, because I did enjoy the first Lego Batman. So, yeah. BioShock, the first one. Now, I showed in my first part of my PS3 collection video where I showed my physical games that BioShock Infinite, my copy of BioShock Infinite came with the first BioShock, and here it is. I already said that in the last video that I thought the game was awesome, though I didn't like it quite as much as 2, but still love it. Very fun game. Tekken Revolution, which is a free-to-play game. This one is okay, but really isn't all that great. It's just a very average free-to-play game. It's not terrible, but it's It's basically a watered-down version of Tekken Tag Tournament with not so heavy emphasis on the tag mechanics, tag battle stuff. It's not really that great. It was fun while it lasted. I think I might have to delete this. This is some Back to the Future games. Back to the Future Episode 3, Episode 4, and Episode 5. I do have 1 and 2, but, well, they're just in my downloads. The only reason I don't have 1 and 2 downloaded onto the system is mainly because I already finished episodes 1 and 2, so and I got this PS3 like after I got this particular PS3 like after I beat 1 and 2. So yeah, I just kind of decided to just go from there, and yeah, the rest is history. But I haven't really gotten much into these these episodes yet. I really need to make some time for them because when I played the first 2 episodes of Back to the Future, the Telltale Games game, I had a lot of fun. I really liked it. It was a really solid game with an interesting story that had a bit of a different from the movies, which I thought was kind of neat. So yeah, I'm excited to see what these hold. Oh wow. December 31st, 2016, and I still haven't gotten around to playing these yet. I feel like a big idiot. Also, if you hear any meowing, ignore that. That's my cat. He's just he is just really meowy right now. He just got fixed the other day. So he's kind of just wanting attention so freaking much. Just wants some lovin's. I love my cat, but he's a very needy cat. You can't see him very well. It's too dark. I have the light off, but if I had the light on, I'd show it. I'd show him to you. But anyways, next game I have is Okami HD. I never finished this game, but I really do enjoy it. It's a very fun action-adventure game with some RPG elements mixed in for good measure. I love the art style. It is absolutely breathtaking. And even remastered in HD, just cleaned up from the PlayStation 2 version, it still looks beautiful. It's a very pretty game. But the game is not... the game is not just a pretty picture. It's also a really solid game in general. The combat's a lot of fun. There's interesting ways to dispatch your enemies, like using a paintbrush to slice them in half. Or you can just use Amaterasu. I'm not sure how you pronounce that, but you use her, you use that thing that was on her neck. I forget what it was called, but I know you use that to beat the shit out of your enemies. And, so yeah, there is melee combat as well as paintbrush combat. It's neat, and I do like the paintbrush system for other means as well, where you can use that to draw a missing bridge. It's neat. It's great stuff. Strider. This is a remake of... I think it's a reboot of the old arcade game from back in the 1980s. And it's a solid game. Not the best game in the series. The first one will always be the king, but the reboot's pretty good. I actually enjoyed it quite a bit. Devil May Cry HD Collection. This one contains Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3. DMC 1 I beat and I love it. DMC 2 I never finished, and the only reason I haven't finished it was because... And there's my cat, who is blocking the screen. The only reason I never finished 2 is because, honestly, 2 did not grab my attention very much, and I have a hard time enjoying it because it is incredibly dull. The combat's been heavily reduced to oversimplicity, which is ridiculous. Especially considering the first game was very combo-heavy. Not to mention the story's not that interesting, and a lot of the humor was taken out, which... Yeah, it wasn't so over the top. It tried too hard to be a much more somber game. It wasn't that great. It's not bad or anything. I don't think it's an awful game. I don't think it's terrible, but it could have been better. But 3, I've heard 3 is easily the best in the series, but I honestly haven't played it yet. I don't know why, I just haven't. I could probably just easily skip over 2 and just play 3. But anyways, Wolf of the Battlefield Commando 3. This is a top-down shooter. Part of the Wolf of the Battlefield series, which I remember the first game, which I remember the which I remember the older games, Wolf of the Battlefield Mercs on the Capcom CPS2 arcade system. It was a lot of fun, and this game is no exception. It's a lot of fun too, although definitely doesn't have as much of the magic as the as Mercs does, but enjoyable nonetheless. I had a lot of fun with it. Castlevania Harmony of Despair. This one is a very interesting take on the Castlevania series. It is a side-scrolling game for the most part, but it's much more it's a bit more heavily reliant on multiplayer, which is the best way to enjoy this game. Playing it by yourself, it's pretty difficult. Castlevania is a hard game for sure. The entire franchise has always been pretty tough, but this is probably one of the hardest games I've ever played in the series. It's a lot easier to play through this game with a friend, whether it's online or couch co-op. And thankfully you can do couch co-op here, so that's nice. Jak 2. I never finished this game. I really do need to get around to it, though, because I really do enjoy this game, but I do like Jak 3 a lot more. It's my favorite one in the series, but 2 is still a solid game. And this was where the series took a darker turn, but I think it was better this way. Honestly, while I didn't mind the bright, colorful, Disney-esque, Crash Bandicoot-like animations of the first game, I preferred the darker tones of the second and third games because I think it just suits the game better. And the creators went for... and I think it brings off for a lot more creative freedom, so yeah. But still. Good stuff. Daytona USA. Oh my god, this game is a classic. I had so much fun playing it. Sure, to some it hasn't aged well, but I still play this game from time to time. I really do enjoy it. It's a lot of fun. There isn't a whole lot of options to choose from, but what Daytona USA succeeds in that Ridge Racer 1 on PlayStation fails is the replayability and also the charm. The charm is what really keeps me coming back. Also, maybe a little bit of nostalgia, because I did used to have this game on the Sega Saturn years ago, before my Saturn broke when I was a kid. I was like maybe 6 or 7 when it broke. It was back in 2001 or 2002. But I intend on getting a Sega Saturn again in the future. Anyways, but yeah, Daytona USA is just an awesome game. I really love it. Next game is Crazy Taxi. Guys, excuse the music, but this game is really fun. I actually had a lot of fun playing this, but sadly this version does not have the soundtrack from the Dreamcast game, or even the arcade game with The Offspring and Bad Religion and whatnot, which is kind of sad, but on the bright side, you can put in custom soundtracks, so you can so there is a way to work around this by playing the original soundtrack into this version of the game. So that's kind of neat. But also the product placement had been removed in this version, which is really sad, but at the same time, I guess it makes sense because they did have licensing issues, but still, I really enjoyed this game, and I really do love of how it was so well created otherwise on here, despite having some changes made to the game. Final Fight Double Impact. This one contains the original Final Fight arcade game, and it also includes another game, which is Magic Sword, which is another fun arcade game. I love Magic Sword. I used to have Magic Sword on the Super Nintendo years ago before I had to sell my Super Nintendo collection, my old Super Nintendo collection years ago due to me having to move and stuff like that. But I loved it. It was a fantastic arcade game. One of the first hack and slashes I ever played. And the arcade version is a lot of fun too. I would prefer the arcade version, but I do prefer the Super Nintendo version just a bit more. While the arcade version is a better port, I still prefer playing the Super Nintendo version just because it has its own charm to it. But needless to say, both games play very well on here. My biggest issue with this is that you cannot play these games offline, so that kind of bugs me a bit because these are games that you don't even have to play online to enjoy or to even play. So it kind of does this. It's a bit of a distraction, but screw it. At least I'm still able to play these games. Resident Evil. This is the remake that was on the GameCube in 2002, and then it got remastered in HD onto the PS3 and PS4 in 2015. Then it got a physical release as part of the Origins collection, which is kind of cool. But Resident Evil HD, it's the same deal as the GameCube game, except it does have HD graphics and trophy support. Either way, you're going to have a good time here. It's a lot of fun. It's scary as hell. Basically, everything I said about the GameCube version applies here. It just looks a bit prettier, or at least cleaner. Remember Me. This is a very interesting action game where you play as this girl named Nilin, who is trying to regain. Who has the power to manipulate memories and stuff like that. It's an interesting concept, and I actually like it. It's quite fun. I really need to get back into it, though. I haven't played this game in a long time, but I will eventually get back into it one day. I just need to find the right time to do so. Resident Evil 0. I actually did enjoy this, but I also have been hearing people say that this was the game that was kind of the turning point in the series where it started taking a more action-oriented approach. And I'm seeing some of that to an extent, but I think Resident Evil 4 was the real turning point. Needless to say, I enjoyed Resident Evil 0. I thought it was a pretty solid game. While not the best in the series, still enjoyed it. Mega Man 10. This was the only one I ever finished. The only Mega Man game I ever finished. But I really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun playing it. It was a hard game, but it was probably the easiest Mega Man game I have ever played, which is crazy. But still, I enjoyed it. Mortal Kombat Arcade Collection. This one contains the first Mortal Kombat, the second one, and Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3. All remastered in HD. And they play great. The emulation on these games are very, very good, for the most part. There are some issues here and there, but they're not too frequent, at least not that I know of. So, I really did have a lot of fun playing these games on here. My only issue with this, my only real issue is, well, considering these are only just remasters, they didn't really go out of their way to try and fix the balance issues that MK2 and 3 suffered from. Well, Ultimate Mortal Kombat 3 does have better balance issues, but it does have better balancing, except for the last couple of fights, especially Shao Kahn, who is a complete pain in the fucking ass. Hated him. But MK2 probably has the worst balancing issues in my opinion, but I couldn't even get past stage 4 because it's just so brutal. Like, the enemy, your opponent just knows every move you're about to make before you even attempt it. So, yeah. AI just gets a little too smart and cocky for its own good. But anyways, I really enjoy this collection, and I had a lot of fun playing it. Wolfenstein 3D. This game is a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it, and it's a really solid port. It's almost an exact note-for-note port of the PC version, but it's a little bit cleaned up, and it does, and the user interface and the some of the interfaces had been changed because it was to suit the it was to suit the HD graphics of the PlayStation 3 and 360 that was on, and mostly just in the menus. The heads-up display in the game is still intact, but needless to say, I had a lot of fun playing this, and this is where I play the uncensored version, because I used to have the Super Nintendo version years ago, back when I had a large Super Nintendo collection, but I wasn't even aware that the version I had was the censored version. But I think it's a better port than the Doom port on the Super Nintendo, which it's really slow. But the Wolfenstein 3D port I actually had some fun with. It was playable at least. But this is easily one I'm better off playing, especially considering I'm not a big PC gamer guy. I prefer consoles or handhelds, so this was the next best thing for me, and I'm glad I did. This was like only $3, so I couldn't pass up an offer like that. It was just well worth it. Virtua Fighter 2. I love this game. Easily my favorite Virtua Fighter game in the series, next to Evolution. Virtua Fighter 4 Evolution on PlayStation 2. This game does fix a lot of the issues that the first game suffered from, and they even increased the polygon counts and stuff. The music's better. Just basically, the Virtua Fighter 2 is a huge improvement of the first game in every way, and it's actually aged really well. Like, it still looks and plays great to this day, but it is also very tough. Like, once you get up to stage 3, that's when the difficulty starts cranking up, and you're gonna have a bit of a tough time getting through it. Still a really fun game, but you gotta be very careful with what you do. You can't just spam and shit. You gotta actually learn earn this game's physics, especially considering this is a little bit more of a realistic kind of game than Tekken. Mega Man 9. I didn't really play much of this yet. And Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo HD Remix. This is a really solid remaster of the original Super Street Fighter 2 arcade game. And I had a lot of fun playing this. Although I do prefer playing the original game, the HD remix is still very solid, and I had plenty of enjoyment. I love the new designs. I love the remixed music for the most part. I think my only issue with this game is the audio. While it's really solid, it's just a little bit. I think it has some audio. I think it has a bit of an audio clipping issue because even if you don't have the volume cranked up that high, it tends to be a little too loud. Like a little louder than it needs to be for the adjustment of volume, but still, it's a lot of fun. Now for the PlayStation 2 games, which I don't have too many PS2 games downloaded on here. But here's what I got. Capcom Fighting Evolution. Not a bad game, but I was a little bit disappointed with this one, I have to admit. It's a little bit, there's not as many characters as you would expect for a Capcom crossover fighting game to be. The game is actually pretty damn tough, but then again, it is a 2D fighting game, so they can be pretty hard sometimes, but I don't know, I need to get more into it. I did find this one to be a little bit tricky in comparison to Capcom vs. SNK, but I still have enjoyment out of it. Persona 4. I love this game. Easily one of my favorite video games of all time and one of my favorite RPGs. I love the story. I love the character interactions, the characters in general. The overall scope of this game is just amazing, and I love the soundtrack. Lots of great music in there. Just, oh my god, it is a whole lot of fun. If you haven't played the Persona games, this is a great place to start. This is where I got my start, and I was hooked from beginning to end. It's just a great series, and I really recommend giving those games a shot. Especially this. Fatal Frame, the first one. This is one of my favorite horror games. I really enjoyed it. It's a very interesting kind of horror game where instead of using traditional weapons like a hammer or an axe or even like a crowbar to fight, you actually use a camera. Yeah, weird, I know, but you use a camera to dispatch ghosts, which are your primary enemies in this game. And it's an interesting concept, and I actually had a lot of enjoyment from it. But holy shit, this game is scary. There are moments where it'll catch you off guard, and it gives off this very creepy atmosphere. And if you're not careful, this game could catch you off guard. It could probably make you shit your pants. But really good game. I highly recommend checking it out. Psychonauts. I hate to admit it, but I haven't really played much of this game, so I can't really say much about it. I really do need to play it because I've been hearing so many good things about it. And maybe I will, I just haven't gone around to it. And last one on the PS2 section is Capcom vs. SNK 2. This was the first one I ever got downloaded from the... This was one of the first games I ever downloaded from the PlayStation Store that I purchased. And I don't regret it at a second of it. I'm glad I did purchase this because prices for the second game on the PlayStation 2 are sort of rising up a bit. Not as bad as Marvel vs. Capcom 2, but it's getting there. But CVS 2, it's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this game. I played the first Capcom vs. SNK a lot on the original PlayStation. So this game I had wanted to play this game for years. I just never got the chance to it, but then I finally downloaded it off the PlayStation Store, and I was very happy. And I love this game to death. There are so many characters to choose from. The fighting is fast and fluid. It's very responsive. Even more characters from the even more characters that weren't in the previous game were added. There are I like the groove system. It's actually been broadened out a bit, which there's a lot more gameplay style, so you can find one to suit your playing needs, which is neat. They also brought back the character color editor thing, where you can be able to change your characters, customize your characters' color designs. And the cool thing is, you can actually rename those characters too, but it's very impractical. Needless to say, though, it is a neat feature. It also has different ways of play as well. Like, there's a one-on-one versus mode, but there's also like a 3-on-3 match, and there's also a ratio mode as well, which is kind of nice. I like that quite a lot. Also, the music is fantastic. I love the music. It is just great. The first one had amazing music already, but the second one just really kicked things up a notch. Whether I would say this is better than the first one, probably, but I think both games are just as good as each other. They're both really fun games. And now for the PlayStation 1 games, which I have quite a bunch of those on here. So, starting off, I've got Resident Evil 2, which is easily one of the best games on the system. One of the best horror games, anyway. Still holds up very well compared to the first Resident Evil game. Had a lot of enjoyment out of it, but damn it, it is hard. I mean, it is a very tough game. If you're not used to the tank controls, you will die. Like, you will suffer a lot of deaths in this game, but once you get used to it, though, it becomes a little more manageable and enjoyable, so yeah. If you haven't played a Resident Evil game, this is a great place to start if you want to get more into the top-down fixed camera angle tank control stuff. Anyways, next I have Castlevania Symphony of the Night, which I do have a physical copy for, but I think my physical copy is kind of scratched up. However, now that I have a digital copy, I can be able to actually play through the entire game without having to spend a crap ton of money. Anyways, This game is awesome. Easily one of my favorite games of the Castlevania franchise. My favorite 2D Castlevania game for sure. Although my favorite Castlevania game of all time would have to be Curse of Darkness on the PlayStation 2. I know it's a weird entry to choose from, but I love that game to death. But Symphony of the Night is a fantastic game, and I highly recommend you check it out if you haven't already. Xenogears. I haven't played too much of this yet. I really need to. I know my brother, he is a huge fan of this game. He loves this game like to absolute death, so I really need to get on the ball eventually. Archlad 2. I haven't played much of this yet. Really need to get around to it. Final Fantasy 9. I haven't played too much of this, but so far from what I've played of it, I really do like it. It's a very good game, and it's one of the most graphically It's also one of the most impressive games on the system, considering the hardware. Like, it looks almost as if it could pass for an early PS2 game, which is quite impressive. The story I really do like, and I like the characters. I just haven't put forth the effort to go through this entire game, and I really need to. Spyro the Dragon. Oh my god. If I talked about this game in depth, that would take me a long-ass time, because I love the Spyro trilogy, man. This was my shit. My gaming childhood right there next to Mario. I played the Spyro games for hours on end as a kid, and I never got tired of them. And playing them today, these games have aged very well. I played the shit out of them later on in life, and I'm happy to say I still enjoy playing them. Although Ripto's Rage is definitely a brutal game, but I'll get to that in a moment. But anyways, the first Spyro the Dragon, it hasn't held up as well as the second and third games, but damn it, it is still a really awesome game, and I love it. It is just so much fun. I am excited for the if anyone's wondering what my opinions are on the Reignited trilogy, I'm very excited for it. Like, my expectations of this game are through the roof. However, one thing I'm not happy about is that the first game is only the first game is going to be on the disc for the physical release, and you're going to have to download Ripto's Rage and Year of the Dragon, which bugs me because those games could have easily fit on a one damn Blu-ray disc. There was no reason for them to pull this kind of marketing stunt. It's a really shitty move on Activision's part. I mean, if they could do it with... I mean, they didn't do that with Crash Bandicoot. I mean, yeah, they're smaller games, but Spyro's games aren't even that huge, so there's no reason for them not to put all these games on a one Blu-ray disc. They could have easily done that. Needless to say, though, I still will get the Reignited trilogy. In fact, the game is actually coming out just a day before my birthday, so I'm hoping to get it at that point in time. Even though I don't like the direction Activision decided to take with the second and third games being just downloads as opposed to being on the actual disc itself, I still will get the game because I really am excited to play the Spyro games in general. It was just a really crappy move on Activision's part, but I still want to play these games. I mean, it's Spyro, it's my childhood. I want to see how much has changed, so yeah. Grandia. Very solid RPG, a lot of fun. Definitely one of these RPGs where it's actually not too brutally frustrating compared to other PS1 RPGs that I've played. But it's a lot of fun. I really do like the story. It's very lighthearted, very whimsical, just... Also, the music is really good, too. It's a solid game. I had a lot of fun with it. Klonoa Dorta Phantomile. Yes, that is how you pronounce it. Klonoa. I'm solidifying that right now. Klonoa. Anyways, Klonoa, for those of you that are wondering what the series is, Klonoa is a 2.5D platformer developed by Namco, who you guys probably know, who I'm sure you guys are very familiar with. They're the ones that worked on Soul Calibur, Tekken, Pac-Man, and they also worked on a few niche games like Dead to Rights, Kill Switch, Oh, and they worked on the Tales games as well. Anyways, Door to Phantom Isle, it's a lot of fun. It's really short, and at times it can be it's a little too easy for its own good. But it is a really good game, and I have to, honestly, this game is just insanely adorable. It's a very cute game because the characters are cute. The music fits the tone of this game really well, and despite how very lighthearted it is, I think it's a game that anyone can enjoy. I think it's a lot of fun. I think it's just very adorable. Klonoa is an adorable little creature. And the Rain Spirit at Hupo is adorable. The voice acting is, for the most part, it's all in the voice acting is all in Japanese, but it's very it's still really neat. And Klonoa's voice in Japanese is very adorable. I'm saying adorable a lot, but it really is an adorable game. But it's a lot of fun. I really do enjoy it. I highly recommend checking it out if you haven't. I would say just get this, just get the digital version, because if you try to get a physical copy, you're gonna end up shelling out a lot of cash for a physical copy. It's way too damn expensive. Like almost $100 if I'm not mistaken. Maybe I'm wrong, but last I checked it was quite a lot. Wild Arms 2. Not a bad game. I had some fun with it, but personally, I think Wild Arms 3 is a much better game for sure. Spyro 2 Ripto's Rage. This is my least favorite of the Spyro trilogy on the PlayStation, but it's still a very good game. My biggest issue with it, though, is that it could get, like, incredibly brutal at times. Like, some of the missions are just absolutely frustrating. And what I really didn't like was that you were forced to collect a ton of orbs just to get through, just to get to Ripto, and I didn't, and that would have been fine, but the problem is there's also a bunch of, but you also have to do a lot of missions that you really don't want to do, and some of these are just much more trouble than they're worth, so yeah. Despite that, though, it's still a really good game. Darkstalkers 3. Very fun fighting game. Love me some Darkstalkers. I love the gothic, I love the dark gothic nature of it. And I also love that it doesn't take itself too seriously. It's just a lot of fun. Chrono Cross. I really need to get more into it. What I said in the PS1 Collection video applies here. I really do want to get more into it. Just the battle system kind of threw me off. I thought it was just a bit overcomplicated, but maybe it's not as complicated as I remember it. Front Mission 3. This is a really solid game. It's a tactical RPG with mechs, which I love that style a lot. Mechs. Tactical RPGs are not my favorite kind of RPG, but I love mech settings, so I had to get this game because I love mechs, so yeah. And Front Mission 3 is a pretty solid tactical RPG. I actually really enjoyed it. It wasn't too hard to grasp. I figured it out pretty quickly. It's a very solid game. It can be pretty tough at times, but it's a great game. Distraga. I know not a lot of people are going to know what this game is, but it is a 3D arena fighting game, kind of predating Power Stone. Anyways, this is actually developed by the same guys that did the Dynasty Warriors series and the Romance of the Three Kingdoms games, Koei. And it's interesting to see them do another. It was interesting seeing them do a fighting game here. I mean, they did do that with the first Dynasty Warriors, which, fun fact, the first Dynasty Warriors is actually a fighting game. But they did, and it wasn't until the second game had moved into hack and slash territory, and the rest is history. But Distraga was an interesting fighting game. Not the best one, not exactly Koei's best game, but it's still a very solid fighting game. I would recommend it. Street Fighter Alpha 3. This is by far my favorite Street Fighter game. I know Alpha 2 is really good as well, but Alpha 3, I just love this game to death. There's just so much charm to it. Loads of characters to choose from. The fighting mechanics have been tweaked to perfection. The announcer is just freaking awesome. I love the announcer. He's just a hoot. And just the overall style of this game is just neat. It's so much fun. There's like 3 different fighting styles you can choose from, and they all play differently from one another. It's a lot of fun. I really enjoy this game. Chrono Trigger. I really do like this game. I wouldn't consider it to be one of the best RPGs I've ever played, but it's definitely a very fun game. I really do like it. It's a timeless classic for sure. I honestly prefer this over Chrono Cross any day. I'm sorry. I prefer this. But, however, I have come to realize the PlayStation version is really not the best version. It's not a bad version per se, but I actually ended up kind of getting discouraged from this game, and I haven't really played it it since the last time I did play, which was about like a year ago. I don't really know, but needless to say, I really need to get back into it. I just haven't. Medieval. This game. Oh my god, this game was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed it. I love the dark gothic horror setting of it. It's really cool. But I also love that this game doesn't take itself too seriously. There's plenty of comedic moments in there, like, the design of the main character, Sir Daniel Fortescue. He looks so dopey, looks like a dork, but it works perfectly for a game like this. And there's even plenty of subtle humor in there. And some of the enemy types are very weird. Like, you actually get to fight a demon that's literally made of stained glass, which is very strange indeed, but that's what makes this game so great, is its weirdness. It's so weird, but it is a lot of fun. If you haven't played this game, I highly recommend checking it out. Siphon Filter 3. I couldn't get past the first stage of it. I don't know. I'm not very good with sniping missions when it comes to shooting games. And considering this entry starts out with a sniper mission, I had a lot of trouble with it. So, yeah, I really do need to put more time into this game, but I'm just not a fan of sniping. Alundra. This one is an action RPG, kind of like Legend of Zelda, but with more RPG elements to it. I really enjoyed this game. I like the 2D animation, although it does look more like a Super Nintendo game than a PlayStation 1 game, but graphics don't really matter if the gameplay. But good graphics don't matter if the gameplay's still good. Because the game is actually a lot of fun. It's very fast-paced, very visceral, very enjoyable. I had a lot of enjoyment out of it. Vib Ribbon. This is a game that never came out in the US prior to this release. It was only available in Japan and Europe, and it wasn't until about a couple of years ago, somewhere around 2014, 2015, that this game actually got a North American release digitally on the PSN. And I'm glad we got this game, because the one thing that really drew me into this game was the fact that you could actually play your own music on there from your own CDs, which I thought was nice, especially considering I have a ever-increasing music CD collection, and I am just really happy to be able to play my own music on there. It's just neat. But the songs themselves are pretty good too. I do like them, but they're very weird for sure. Also, this game is hard. It's really hard. This is not a game that you're going to be able to pick up and play. You actually really gotta learn how the controls work, because they can be very complex with different obstacles merging together, which will make things a lot more difficult and challenging. But hey, that's the beauty of this game. As hard as it is, it's still a fun game. Weird, but fun. Spyro Year of the Dragon. This one's my favorite game in the series. I know a lot of people don't really like this one compared to the first two games, but this is my favorite. I loved a lot of the new stuff they did add to this game. The story is even better than before. I do like the new animal friend. I do like the animal friends that you get to play as in the game, like Sheila the kangaroo, Bentley the Yeti, Agent 9 the monkey, and Sergeant Bird, the James Bond, the secret agent Bird that is basically a parody of James Bond. It's just hilarious shit. But this game is just a lot of fun. I love the story. I love the characters. I love the gameplay. It's really been tweaked to perfection here. And though Spyro doesn't really learn a whole lot of new stuff, I still found this game to be very fun and hella memorable. It's a really solid game. Not to mention the side missions are a lot more fun here than they were in the second game. So, yeah. Armored Core. This is a really fun game. It's not aged as well as Armored Core or as the Armored Core games on the PlayStation 2, but still a solid game. I had plenty of enjoyment out of it. It's a little tough to control at first crack, but once you get used to it, it becomes more enjoyable. Bloody Roar 2, the new breed. Yeah, Bloody Roar 2. For those of you that don't know what Bloody Roar is, it's a fighting game series where you can transform into beasts, which I think is really freaking cool. But sadly, the series does not get the attention it deserves. I mean, not a whole lot of people talk about it that I know of. But they are really good fighting games, and if you have a PlayStation system or a PlayStation 2, definitely get these games. They're just a lot of fun to play. Bloody Roar 2 especially is one of my favorites. Although 3 I would consider my most favorite, 2 is my second favorite. I play this one quite a lot as well. Very enjoyable fighting game. A lot better than the first one in my opinion. Some would prefer the first one, but I like the second one better. Final Fantasy Origins. I'm so sorry that it's so freaking bright and glaring. Anyways, this one contains Final Fantasy 1 and 2, which is kind of cool. But, I also have these games on the PSP as well, but unfortunately my PSP is kind of messed up at this point right now, so right now So these are my only means of playing these games right now without having to worry about my PSP's difficulties trying to work. But both games are really solid. But I do like Final Fantasy 2 just a tiny bit more because it has a much more thought out story. And although at times it doesn't make sense, and there are some moments that really just feel underutilized, and it can get very brutal at first crack. The game is a lot of fun. I really do enjoy it, and they're really solid remasters of the original NES games. One thing that's interesting about this is that it's actually a very late release in the PS1's life cycle, being released in Japan in 2002 and North America in 2003. I shit you not, 2003. Wow, that is, like, very late in the PS1's life cycle, for sure. Like, 3 years after the PlayStation 2 was already out. And the last game I have, but simply not least, is Crash Bandicoot Warped! This is a really good game. Easily the best game in the Crash series, in my opinion. I had a lot of fun playing this one. But I also do have the Insane Trilogy as well, but unlike the first two games, this one is actually still fun to go back to the PlayStation 1 version for a compare and contrast thing. So, yeah, great stuff. Anyways, these are all my digital downloads on the PlayStation 3. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Take care.